I'll cover both of your comments in the same topic. The rally setters debuffs apply to only the rally setters debuffs apply to the player being attacked, because otherwise that would get kind of confusing. So, but each player's buffs are set by their troops, get the buffs set by the player. Yes, that's right. Apes together, strong. That's the concept behind rallies, literally. Just the more people with layers you have, the better the rally is going to go. That's all you really need to know. When the rally setter sets the rally, their buffs don't apply to all the other troops, because you would have somebody with flat refines, right? And they would set a rally, and they have flat refine buffs that increase, flat refines are best on low tier troops. So they would send a bunch of tier ones, and then they would have their entire alliance of 150 members. That's the highest cap an alliance can go. They would all send tier ones, and you'd have this massive rally of tier one soldiers with flat buffs that would do a shitload of damage and receive like no damage in return. So there was a lot of confusion about this for a long time, but just logically speaking, it would break the game to have somebody with like one person's buffs apply to the whole rally. It just wouldn't work. Like, that would be really game breaking. So that's the reason they've broken up. Every player gets their own buffs. That long answer to the question. And then the rally makers debuffs are the ones that apply. So typically this is really strictly for all stars. It doesn't happen that much in normal PvP. But the rally maker has a debuff general as their march leader, because their debuff general will do more against the enemy for everybody than just buffing their own troops, is what Zora was saying, which is common in all stars. I basically covered mixed rallies. Ground rallies are a thing, typically for clearing out tier 1 walls. You'll see ranged rallies clear out tier 1 walls also. Both work realistically. I'm not going to say one's better than the other. I've had a lot of success with ground, but they'll both work. You usually want to just send what you have your best troop as. And then mounted, as I mentioned, they're useful in rallies, but really you shouldn't be sending mounted, especially if you don't know what you're doing. They're just going to get massacred and everybody will be mad at you. So, just be warned. SvS strategies. It's a very short one. If you want to bubble for the entirety of SvS, I know all of you are here for PvP, so you're not really interested in that, but it never hurts to just bubble the entire SvS. If you're going to be gone on vacation, just bubble the SvS. Temples, you typically want to hold it with minimal troops. People can get points from temples towards their war score, let's say, from holding the temple, but you have to have 5 million power. So at a certain point, you can get one general with 5 million power and stick 1 or 2 troops in the temple. But until then, you just want to hold it with just enough troops to reach 5 million power to get points. So that's what I mean when I say minimum troops. When it comes to the throne, typically one alliance conquers the enemy throne while the other one holds one. Sometimes one alliance can do both, but it's a little bit difficult. What usually ends up happening is if you're holding both, you go to the enemy server and you hold that throne, and some players will stay home on the home server, and they'll just send 1 or 2 troops and try and flip the basically the throne timer. I know none of you have seen this yet, so it might be a little bit abstract. But that's a common tactic. The problem is it's usually loaded with troops, so a big player has to return home and kick out the people trying to conquer the home throne. We'll get more into thrones later, but the temples and the thrones are all buildings. So when you send your marches there, you want thicker marches, or thicker layers in your march, I should say. So it's just a concept to be aware of. And then I do want to mention, so that we're all aware, Throne truces are negotiated quite often. It's actually very common that if both servers are not sure they can hold the throne, nobody really wants to risk it. We all have politics going on in our own server, and we don't want one alliance to get mad that another alliance wanted to attack the throne, and then you ended up getting your own throne conquered, sort of thing. It makes for a lot of drama. So a lot of alliances will, especially if you're a weaker alliance, I mean, a lot of servers, especially if you're a weaker server, will try and negotiate a throne truce. And so the rules are pretty simple. You just don't attack the enemy's throne, and you don't attack the people sitting in the forest reinforcing the throne until the timer is done on their throne. So if a throne truce is negotiated, it'll be announced. Just be aware of it and don't do something crazy and get in trouble. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of tactics in SvS. I'm just trying to cover the basics because you can negotiate tactics all day. Aurora, I see you're going to ask something, so I'm going to. Oh, I see. Never mind. You're announcing your insanity. Okay, so this is the end of the informational segment. Then I have some examples to go through. But the key takeaways are you should always use layers. Even if you don't have that many layers, you should still use layers. Because no layers means you take a lot more damage. At all times, you should be bubbled. The only time you shouldn't be bubbled during server war is when you're actively making an attack or reinforcing a building like the throne. Otherwise, you should stay bubbled at all times. Don't make attacks blindly and risky attacks, because you'll have a player that's let's say 200 million power and you're 400 million power, and you think, okay, I can take this guy. If you send an attack and it's just filled with 100 million tier 1 cavalry and a bunch of archers to back it up, you're going to lose your whole send and deal real minimal damage. So you should ideally have somebody scout it first. That doesn't mean you have to scout it. Usually you want somebody who can ghost all their troops to go scout it and then share the report in Alliance chat or World chat. So that's a key concept I want to emphasize, is not to engage blindly, because all warfare revolves around information, knowing the opponent's buffs, troop composition. I don't want to blindly attack somebody and find out I just sent my ranged attack into a siege player's base. My ranged attack's all going to get destroyed. So I, or ideally somebody else, should scout him and share to me, okay, this is what the guy has. Especially one day into the server war, people are going to know what you have in your base typically, especially if you're like in the top 10 of players. They're going to say, okay, I know this guy has a lot of range. He doesn't have a lot of siege. If I unbubble to scout somebody, right away, they're going to hit me with what they know can counter me. And then if you're small, it's even worse. Sometimes they don't even scout you. They don't have to. They might be 5 billion power, K44. They see you, 400 million power. You just unscouted to scout a member. You just unbubbled to scout a member of their alliance. Right away, they just hit you like a fly on the wall. So something to be, aware of. Having a small person who can ghost all their troops and with no risk scout the enemy. Last point is just to ask questions. Nobody's born knowing anything. All of this has been learned through either diligent research or trial by fire in my first server. So, ask questions. I've been playing the game for 12 years. I started in the browser when things were way different. So, I know a fair bit. You can ask me or your alliance or in World Chat. I don't read World Chat as much as I used to, but you can always whisper me. Are there any questions on any of the information shared before I start moving into specific examples? So, no worries. My comments most. No worries. My first server in The King's Return was 1571. I played the original Evany before this, and it was fairly similar. This one's a bit more money grabbing, but my first server was 1571. I gave my account to a French friend, so they renamed it to like Mr. Nam Plus or something, so you can try and look it up if you want. but it's on 1571 somewhere. I just got tired of the server, and I built like honestly like an idiot. So I just decided I'm gonna start fresh, make a nice server, try and make it nap, and that's what ended up happening. So that was my first server though, 1571. I didn't really play before that, like 6 years or something. Before the King's Return, it was just called Ebony then, and it was the iPhone app. And then before that, it was Ebony on the PC on the browser. Back when you could have multiple cities and all sorts of things. So, anyways, that's my resume for the phone game, if you will. I didn't see any other questions, so I'm going to go ahead and go into specific examples now. Oh, well, now I'm going to go into examples. So this is an example of a properly layered attack. This might have been the battle I showed you guys earlier, because this was a pretty good, just general example. But you'll see that he sent a bunch of his tier 12, because, I mean, that's what he had. And then he sent some of his tier 11. And then he sent some of his tier 10. The ratios are a little bit different. They're inverted from what I described, simply because I know this guy knows what he's doing. And he's going to be using a lot more tier 12 in the future. So rather than overbuilding and building excessive ratios of those tier 10, tier 11 soldiers, he just built 100,000, and he's going to start building up his tier 12, because once you hit K35, tier 12 are your main workhorse for a long time. So don't be afraid of overbuilding tier 12 range troops. But anyways, I wanted to show an example of a properly layered defense. Attack, not defense. You can see he had 1,000-ish of each troop type going in. His tier 12 started to take some damage. You can see that that was the first troop of the ranged types that took damage. And that's because they're in the front line. They're the highest tier troops, so they're the front line in the sense of a top-down attack on the tiers of that troop type. I really hope that made sense, because I almost confused myself. But they started to take the damage. You see that 12,848 damage, but then you go down to tier 11, they hadn't taken any damage yet. So that should give you some idea of how the damage works. It's top down, and then how layers work. Because you see all of these layers did a little bit of damage, and then they took damage. But the ranged was mostly unharmed. So, and I already showed you guys this slide. This is an enemy that didn't have layers. So they basically are top heavy. They're loaded up on high tier troops, and they have 0 low tier troops to absorb damage. And as we know, all the different tiers of troops take damage in different ways depending on what's attacking. In this case, it was a ranged attack, and he was really loaded up on cavalry because it looks like he was a PvE player. He attacked a lot of monsters. So his cavalry really aided in the battle. And this is an example of why you want layers in your defenses, and an example of why you want to ghost your high tier cavalry, because they're the first ones to die in battle. So that's all. What was this an example of? Oh, this is I mentioned ghosting high tier cavalry in the last battle, but this is an example of a bigger players fighting, and the high tier cavalry were not ghosted. So this player was one of ours. These are all, by the way, all of these examples are from this server, from people who are playing on this server. So it's not like floating around out there arbitrary examples I pulled off the internet. I asked members of the Alliance and other alliances, please send reports to me. I'm going to review them. I'll give you comments, and I want to use some of them because I got a ton of reports. I want to use some of them in these slideshows. So this person's in our alliance. They were defending an attack, and they hadn't ghosted their cavalry yet. They had intended to, but they weren't really that fast. And this person hit them, and they had a lot of ranged in the attack, because most players do. And all of these tier 14 cavalry you see on the right, it's the second from the bottom troop type, they were still at home and they got hit. And you see this big power exchange. And the reason this defender lost a lot more points than the attacker is because they lost 424, 841,000 of their tier 14 cavalry and only inflicted 124, 678,000 casualties. Even if it was tier 14 on tier 14, they lost the exchange. But more than likely, a majority of those casualties were layers and then a little bit of whatever archers they sent. So, because you can see her range, the defender's range, did way more damage than the casualties that they received. So, I mean, really, this is a good example of everything. Layers will absorb a lot of damage, and then, this person's archers did a ton of damage to the attack. They did over 50%, and they didn't ghost their cavalry, so they took a lot more damage on the cavalry than they received. And if you remember the first slide, you'll hear me say this a lot, but, battle is all about inflicting more casualties than you receive. And so these cavalry just clearly didn't do that. So that's why you want to ghost your cavalry, in case I haven't made that point clear. This is an attack that was sent without layers. It was a mistake that happened, but it still happened. They intended to send layers and then didn't. And right off the bat, you can see these tier 14 archers took a lot of casualties. Excuse me. And they inflicted almost no casualties. And that's the reason you want layers, because if you don't have layers, your high tier troops, which deal a lot of damage, are going to take the brunt of the damage right off the bat. And we don't want that. So, anyways, that's all this is. Send layers, bottom line. This is an example of power exchange with good buffs. So, these two players are roughly equal power at, arguably 7 million power is negligible. Because you see this power exchange. The attacker lost 6.5 million, the defender lost 38 million. And the reason is because the attacker's troops are over 2-1 in buffs, on the whole, especially if you take the buffs aggregate. So, his troops were fighting, even if they were fighting equal tiers, they were fighting at over twice the effectiveness of the enemies, as you can see by the 6.5 to 38 million ratio. So again, buffs are the most important thing as a force multiplier in combat. Yeah, this is again emphasizing just how bad cavalry are. I don't really think I need to say more on cavalry. I've spouted how bad they are already, but cavalry really do not do well in PvP, especially unghosted. This might be... Oh, that's the last one. Let me see if that was the same. Yeah, that's the same person. So this battle, this is an example of the defender's forces. And that's one of the reasons it was 6.5 million to 38 million, is because basically the defender only had cavalry and were unsupported. So that's all I have to share. Now it's done. I can make some slides really quick if you want. Actually, I can just duplicate this. That'd be easier. There we go. You guys wanted Blazons? Oh my god, I promise I can type. So I can go over Blazons really quick. If you guys want to hang out, I just need to take about 5 minutes and take some screenshots on my phone and send them to myself of my own Blazons. It's going to take too long to go over somebody else's. But if you have any questions about anything in the entire slide, feel free to ask it now. I can do two things at once. And then otherwise, that's it. Thank you for joining the PvP seminar. Feel free to start talking. Otherwise, I'll get lonely. Oh, you're welcome. And I hope this is enough to explain it. You're welcome, Genghis. Oh, hopefully, hopefully it was better than the last one, Zora. Okay. Need to.
I think
Yeah,
everybody is just waiting to see if there's any questions. Or they fell asleep.
they might have. Dirk had a question. Rainmaker's looking at 1571. He found 974, which is the alliance I founded, and then eventually it left. But because I gave my account away. But yeah, it's like I don't know. I don't know what it got named to because there was a player on there named I say it Namika, but it's like name Name and then AKA, and she like changed the name a few times, so I don't know what it is now, but then I eventually gave it to her and she took it over. So
Oh, okay. That's nice.
oh yeah, she was an alliance member for a long time. Rainmaker's looking at Darth Dave, I think is his name, and he should be approaching K45 soon. He's a good All Stars player. I thought about asking him to be a guest speaker.
That would be good. Maybe you could do it in the future.
Maybe. I haven't been on that server in like a year and a half or something. I logged onto it once, got a cake literally, and then like decided, yeah, I don't really want to play the game. Like it probably still has 10 million gems on it, no joke. They just use it to fuck with the biggest alliance now.
Oh, jeez.
It's like a very tiny alliance. They were all free to play players, and I gave it to the one that I thought was the most deserving. Um, they like use it to mess around and like steal the monsters from the bigger alliance now. I have no clue. I left it on like 5 billion power maybe, but it might have gotten ground down to nothing at this point. So I don't know what's left there. Shoot, I don't know how I'm gonna fit all these on one slide. I'm pretty sure I left that keep at K40. I don't know, or I had resources to go to K40, but I left it in pretty good condition. And it was in 974 at the time. Uh, but who knows what it's looking like now. All right, now I need to copy the new image. Oh no, I need to copy this image.
Lil must have fell asleep because she's usually very talkative.
Maybe she's being respectful. What the heck is this?
I think it's 1 a.m. for her, though.
Yeah, it might be. No, she's on. I can tell. I can sense it. Yeah, she's on. You see her glaring at you with the Wednesday Addams photo or whatever.
I wasn't paying any. I was not paying any attention to the chat.
I don't know who respectful is, but I prefer to be me. Thank you.
Are you trying to be respectful? That's so kind of you.
Don't make fun of her like that.
But she's the best one to make fun of.
Okay.
I love it. Keep going, Raven. Don't stop.
I know you're the only one that I know that can take a joke, so.
Don't stop, girl. Go for it. I support
Well,
you.
now it's too late because I'm ready to go over Blazons. Except my keyboard's fucked up now. I don't know why. There we go.
Did you already create a slide?
Yes.
Awesome.
I mean, there's no text. There's literally nothing on it. It's like the most bare bones slide. But to go over Blazons, these are all mine. So you'll see mistakes. And I'm going to share those mistakes with you to teach you guys not to make those mistakes. So the first thing is to know about Blazons is there's two types of Blazons. They're named different things, but for the range, for the cavalry, it's like honor set and soul set. For ranged, I think it's valor and compassion, but I have the entire valor set on. So I'm gonna on the right is like the mistake part, and on the left is the proper one, obviously. It's not that bad for cavalry because I don't use cavalry for PvP. I use it for monsters, but you'll see it's kind of backwards. So you want to get typically one matching set, or at least split it like 2 and 4, or 0 and 6, or 2 and 4. Those are the only ways you can split it, or 4 and 2, I should say. If you do 3 and 3, you're going to get only 2 buffs, not 3 buffs that you would normally get. So for example, on the mounted one, you see it says honor set and then soul set, 2 different buffs. If that's because I have 2 pieces that are honor and 4 pieces that are soul. So it's 4 out of 6 soul, so I get 2 buffs, and it's 2 out of 6 honor, so I get 1 buff. But if I split it 3 out of 6 honor, 3 out of 6 soul, I'm not going to reach that 4 out of 6 requirement for either of the sets. So I'm just going to get, attacking, enemy range troop, whatever, and then mounted HP on monster, and I wouldn't get the mounted troop defense on monsters, just for example. So you want to have that split on the sets, either entirely one set or 2 pieces from one set and 4 pieces from another set. You don't want to do the 3 and 3 split because we don't like that. You don't get the maximum buffs that you would normally get from that set. So that's something I wanted to go over on this slide, is specifically the sets and how they work. And then They all have buffs. Typically, usually they're like one set is for defense, one set is for attack. Because I'm fairly big and I play the game a lot, I feel comfortable doing the attacking sets. But I would highly recommend for you guys to do the defending sets. When defending, then this is an example of situational buffs, right? Like you see the Valor set when attacking enemy ground troop attack, whatever. When attacking enemy mounted troop defense, whatever. So this is situational. Like if I'm defending, I'm not going to get these buffs. But the compassion set on ranged, which I didn't add a screenshot of here because I don't have those Blazons. The compassion set is like when defending, let's say enemy ground troop attack minus whatever, enemy range troop attack plus whatever. So I would recommend those situational buffs for your Blazons because you guys probably want that more than when you're attacking. If you know what you're doing, if you know how to ghost, and you feel comfortable with it, it never hurts. Yeah, I'm sorry. It can hurt to go for the attacking set. It never hurts to go for the defending set though. So that's my little spiel about attack and defense. And then this is the split that you want on the sets. On the right, I did want to show an example though of the bottom two are PvE, meaning like player versus environment. They're for fighting monsters. The top one is PvP. Usually you want all of them to focus on PvP. So that's for the sets specifically. Now, the next one is an example of individual Blazons from these two, examples I pulled. The one on the right, the far one on the left is a proper example of a good Blazon. They're all PvP oriented. I tried to get dual Blazons that say attacking troop ranged attack plus whatever percentage it starts at, I forget, because you'll see if you look at the far right one now, it says new attribute unlocked at level 10. So at level 10 and then at level 15 you get two more attributes unlocked. So if big if I tried to do this like 5 or 6 times and wasted a ton of Blazons, if you can get all 4 of them to say attacking range troop plus whatever, you can get easily plus 60%, plus 58 whatever percent range troop attack. Or if you want to do defense, you can say defending range troop attack plus whatever. You can get a really high buff out of these, and you can get a few of them. Not all Blazons are meant for attack. Fuck, maybe I should have put a third slide in here. But not all Blazons are meant for attack. Some of them are only HP. So you'll see in the middle there, it says, attacking range troop HP, reinforcing range troop HP. They don't all do attack. The reason for that is you have the sets, which is Valor set, but then you also have the type. You have Shadow, you have Wind, you have Ocean. I forget the names, honestly. I'm just reading what's on the screen. But you have different types. So it's the same as your gear you put on generals. 2 pieces of gear, buff attack. 2 pieces of gear, buff defense. And 2 pieces of gear, buff HP. It's the exact same in Blazons. I think they're even in the same position as they are on Monarch gear. On general gear. So that's how it works, is you have 3 types of 2 of each Blazon for the different stats. And you want to orient them all towards PvP. So you heard me say earlier that I tried several times and then threw away some of these not threw away, I recycled the Blazons. So that's because if you look on the far left again, I had attacking range troop attack, and I didn't have a double Blazon. Like I couldn't get both of them to say attacking range troop attack. So I settled for in rally range troop attack, because the next best thing is I'm going to be doing rallies when attacking. So I leveled it up to level 10, and I got lucky, and I got attacking range troop attack again, which was great. And so then I leveled it up again, and I got reinforcing range troop attack, which isn't the best in my opinion, because I'm going to be doing a lot of attacking with my range troops. But it's not the worst either, so I stuck with it and maxed it out, because I can't keep being a perfectionist and recycling my Blazons. How to level it up is if you see in the middle where it says upgrade, you basically consume other Blazons to upgrade your Blazons. I know that sounds goofy, but that's actually how it works. So if you see the middle Blazon, I leveled it up once, I leveled it up to level 10, and I got attacking range troop HP again, which was great because I want to get, the only trait I can get is HP, and I want it to be the attacking one in general because I intend to be attacking a lot. If you're gonna be defending, you want it to say defending range troop HP. The best one is just to say, if you look on the far right, for example, it just says mounted troop attack. That's not when you're attacking, that's not when you're defending, it's both, it's all of them, it's in every circumstance. That's the best one to get, but it's rare. And I just settled for attacking. In all honesty, that's why. So how to upgrade them is you consume other Blazons. So I would take all the Blazons I liked, and if you see these two on the right, you can lock them. That way you don't accidentally consume them. And then you can feed Blazons to the Blazon chest. I know that sounds crazy. Maybe I would have to stream myself doing it, but that's how you increase the rank. So each Blazon is worth 100 points of experience, a level 1 Blazon, I have to specify. So it would take 2 other Blazons added to that one on the far right, that Soul Shadow Blazon, and that would increase it to level 2 and would increase the stats. So that's how Blazons work. Now what I did was, because I'm focused on ranged, I took a bunch of different Blazons, just assigned them to my troops that I thought would be best. Early on, I probably could have done a better job changing them later, and then all my other Blazons, like my siege Blazons, my ranged Blazons that I didn't like, my cavalry and ground Blazons, I fed everything to these Blazons right here to increase them, the ones that you see on the screen. So that's how they increase, and that's the sets, that's the types of Blazons. What happens and why I throw Blazons away is if you look on the right, if you look in the middle, it was all good. Reinforcing range troop HP and attacking range troop HP I started with. And I could take reinforcing. It was okay because I wasted all my double Blazons trying to get good attack buffs. And then when I leveled it up to 10, because that's the level you get your first one, like you see on the right, I got attacking range troop HP again. That's good. Then I leveled it up to 15, and you see it stops right here at 15. That's because the skill I unlocked was range troop load, which is garbage. I don't need load. It doesn't help in combat. It's a waste on a Blazon. I mean, not really. It is a big waste on a Blazon. So this one I'm actually going to throw away at some point, and not throw away. I'm going to recycle it. So basically, I'm going to find a Blazon that's a Valor Wind Blazon. And I want it to say, attacking range troop HP or just range troop HP or in rally range troop HP. One of those ones that are PvP oriented. And then I'm going to feed this level 15 Blazon to the level 1 Blazon. And that will shoot the level 1 Blazon all the way up to the level that you fed it, minus 1 level. So it's going to go to level 14. Somebody's probably asking questions in the chat, so I'll take a look. But I know that sounded kind of wordy and confusing. Aurora, so they're cumulative. Sorry, so Life said, I fell asleep and heard someone called. Finish layers. Yeah, so the attributes can be pretty shitty. Aurora, I'm not sure what you mean by accumulative. Sorry. Again, what asked you accumulate Blazons, and then you feed the Blazons, and they accumulate skills. And I had a Valor Shadow Blazon that 4 times got a shitty skill at level 10, so I kept redoing my blazon over and over. And you'll hear people say that, they're doing their blazons or working on their blazons or redoing them. And that's typically what they're referring to, is trying to get good buffs on the blazon. Oh yeah. And you'll see at level 1, they stack at point whatever percent. The buffs increase as you level them up. So that's really all there is to it. And that's really it about Blazons. Once you figure it out, it makes sense. But the system's kind of janky to begin with. So if there are, yeah, they are a little bit confusing to start with. Yeah, I mean, just play with it. You can ask in Alliance chat if the Blazon is good or not, and I'll tell you. But in general, you want to match the set to attacking or defending. You can mix and match, but I find playing one way to be the best or easiest. Maybe I'm just simple-minded. Life. I've tried using upgraded Blazons to another already high Blazon, and they only upgraded at least half, maybe if added to level 1 only. Yeah, it's when you add it to a low level, like you'll see in the right here, this Soul Shadow Blazon, it only takes 200 experience to upgrade it. Each Blazon it's basically worth 100 experience. So this level 15 Valor Wind Blazon would take 70 level 1 Blazons to level up, right? 7,000 into 100. Yeah, 70. So that being said, like if you take this level 15 Valor Wind Blazon and shoot it into the Soul Shadow Blazon, it'll level it up way, way like a lot. But if you take this Valor Wind Blazon and stick it in another similar level Valor Wind Blazon, you might get like 1 level or 2 levels. It wouldn't be nearly as much, just because the experience is required accumulates. It's accumulative. You're welcome. Yeah, are there any other questions about Blazons? Feel free to ask. Or if there are any other topics you want to address, I can make a slide relatively quickly. Great. That's really it then. I don't have anything else to go over, and I haven't even started working on the advanced PowerPoint yet, so there's nothing fun to really share. Yeah, that's it. I hope you guys had fun. It's kind of boring for some people, but I don't know. I have a judo seminar I have to give tomorrow. So, yeah, it's whenever I have time to put one together, honestly. Probably a week or two from now, honestly.